Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and today is part 5 of our Magic Origins set review, and we'll be looking at all the green cards today. So if you missed it, in the last 4 installments, we looked at white, blue, black, and red. Today we'll focus on green. Tomorrow will be the last chapter where we'll look at all the multicolored cards. So again, just want to take a moment to thank all the new subscribers and all the long-term subscribers. We've gotten a lot of new folks joining us through the Magic Origins spoilers and set review, so we really appreciate that, so thank you. So having said that, let's get into the cards. The first one is Ariel Volley, and this card is not super great, but it only costs 1 green, and it's at instant speed, and it actually does take care of a lot of threats that are in this limited environment. So you could play this in limited, it'll probably be a sideboard card for you, but it's not phenomenal on paper, but it'll probably do more work than you'll think it does in limited. Next is Animus Awakening, and this is a pretty big ramp card. Now, it does require you to already have the ability to get some mana for it to be effective. However, even if you're just turning a few cards and maybe pulling 1 or 2 lands out of it in limited, that's not a bad thing. Can this be broken and constructed? The only thing that's kind of awkward about this is for it to be really amazing, you already have to have a lot of lands in play. So, like, at some point, what are you ramping to? Now, maybe when Battle for Zendikar comes out, you'll be ramping into some huge Eldrazi or something like that. And that might be different, and then you might see this card, maybe see some standard play. But as it stands right now, I think it's a fine limited card. Caustic Caterpillar. So this effect is a lot better in this limited environment than most because there are a lot of enchantments. So it's probably main deckable if you're concerned about getting some enchantments out of the way. Could be a sideboard card though to start out. Overall, it's not a fantastic card. It's not mind-blowing, but it does some work that you probably will need it to do in this limited scene. Conclave Naturalists. This card's a 4/4 for 5. That's not bad. And it also destroys a artifact or enchantment when it enters the battlefield. So again, it does what this limited environment really needs to do. So this automatically just makes it a better limited card. Now, she doesn't have evasion, but that's okay because of the other effect. And 4/4 I think is just big enough for 5 that's just going to be great for you in limited. Duaneins Elites, and that's quite a mouthful, but this is a really fine commander card. This potentially could be a commander, and I wonder if she'll see play in a standard version of Elves. There are a lot of Elf components here that could fuel a deck like that, if not when this set comes out, but maybe further down the road in the metagame. I also wonder if a card like this could find its way into the modern elf deck. I mean, that deck's pretty tight right now, but there are some new components that are kind of exciting that I'm sure some people want to try out that might be effective. But this is a really fine card. It's going to really propel that elf strategy, and it's going to be good in limited as well. Even if you're not playing a whole bunch of elves, even if you just have a couple, it's still pretty good. I mean, paying 4 for a 3/4 with a reach is still decent, even if you ignore the elf effects. Next is Duaneins Elites, and this is a pretty good limited card, even if you're just running a mild elf strategy. If you can get this card out early enough and get 3/3 power toughness on the board, that's pretty decent. I really like this card. It's not going to be necessarily for every limited deck, but if you're playing even just a few elves, I think it's worth it. Elemental Bond. So this is a very powerful enchantment if it's in the correct deck. I think you'll see this played definitely in Commander. It can certainly see some limited play as long as you have enough big creatures to make it profitable, and I think that should be pretty easy to do in green. And it's good enough that it could see some standard play in the right deck. I'm not really sure what that deck is yet. If there's a ramp deck that comes out at some point, maybe it's after Zendikar, this will become a piece of that. Overall, it's a pretty good card. I don't really like taking a turn off to play an enchantment, but for 3 mana, I can get beyond it. Next is Elvish Visionary, and this is a tried and true limited staple. This is going to be a fine card for you in any green deck. You get a 1/1, plus you get to draw a card. It's awesome. Could be good enough to make it into that standard elf deck if it exists. It's just nice card advantage. It is very economical. Evolutionary Leap. So this is an interesting card. I guess this is in some ways a fixed version of Survival of the Fittest. Obviously, it's nowhere near as explosive as Survival of the Fittest, which is good because that card is broken and nuts. But this card, what I really like about it is it only costs 2, so it's not a huge investment. And then if you have a creature that maybe is going to die anyway in a block, or maybe is getting hit by direct damage or something, you can sack it and get a little bit of card advantage out of that exchange. And that can get annoying for your opponent pretty quick if every time one of your creatures is going to die, you're able to use this effect. So I really like it. This is a fine card. I would certainly play it in limited. I think there's potential to see it in standard just because of the card advantage that it can generate. It'll be interesting to see how powerful this truly ends up being. Definitely it'll be a fun card for Commander as well. Next is Gaia's Revenge, and this is a reprint from M11. It was originally a mythic rare there, and it's a good ground pounder, basically. It comes in with haste. It costs 7, but haste makes it feel more like it costs 6, and it's got a lot of ways to defend itself. So basically, it's your typical limited bomb. You're going to be more than happy to run this in limited. Gather of the Pack, and I like the fact that this only costs 2, and it's a pretty decent effect. Even if you don't have spell mastery, you could potentially whiff on this, but I think it would be pretty hard in most limited decks. And if you're using this in a standard environment or even in a commander environment, you have a deck built around stuff like this, so you really shouldn't miss. And it becomes that much better with spell mastery. So again, it's just kind of pure card advantage, and it also helps populate your graveyard if that matters. So I could definitely see this making its way into that standard elf deck if it exists, and this is a fine limited card as well. Next is Herald of Patheon. So this creature only costs 2 for a 2/2, and talk about Grizzly Bear with tons of upside. Enchantment spells cost 1 less to cast, and you gain a life when you cast enchantments, but having them cost 1 less to cast, that can be a pretty big deal. So this isn't for every limited deck, obviously, unless you're running a pretty strong enchantments. Maybe it's a Selesnya deck, but a pretty strong theme with enchantments. Could this see a home in Mono Green Devotion before that rotates out of standard? It could. I think this would be an awesome card for Mono Green Devotion decks if they can find room for it. So it might see a little bit of standard play before Theros rotates out. Definitely also a very good commander card for an enchantment theme or a Theros-based deck. Hitchclaw Recluse. So this is a fine limited card. It's going to cost you 3 for a 1/4 with reach, and hey, it's a spider. It's going to block. It's going to be fine for you in limited. Honored Hierarch. So this obviously isn't a noble hierarch by any means, but there's a time and a place for this card. Like, I would think about siding it in when I'm on the play in limited. Also, if I'm playing a Selesnya deck with a lot of tap down, white has tons of tap down. With a lot of tap down abilities, I would think about playing this guy. If you can get him across, he's awesome. If you can't get him across, he's horrible. There's no middle ground here. But, you know your deck. Obviously, like I said, you probably want to side him out if you're on the draw. But on the play, he might be able to get in there. He might get lucky. Luckydraaga Invocation, and this is a 6 casting cost, and it doesn't give trample, which is a little painful, but I kind of know, I mean, that's not really where they're going anymore. I mean, you don't see cards like that just like have, say, that overrun effect anymore. So you're paying 6 really for a board sweeper under the right conditions, and that can be okay in the right deck. Elf decks would appreciate that, where you have a lot of little creatures that can basically get it in there, get some damage across. This could be a finisher, or it could just simply sweep the board for you, or sweep your opponent's board, really. So it's still a very powerful limited card. Leafgilder. So she's our mana dork for green this time around, and a lot of people are upset that it's not Elvish Mystic. This one costs 2 instead of 1. Yeah, you get extra power out of it, but that's really not why you play these type of cards. So yeah, I think at least right now in Magic's history, they're trying to slow green's roll just slightly with ramp, and this is one way of doing it. I mean, it's still going to be good for you in limited. You'll still play it. Still could be good enough for constructed play when Elvish Mystic rotates out, and this is your only option. Llanowar Empath. This guy is actually decent. You look at casting cost of 4 for a 2/2, and you're like, eh. But then you look at his ability. Scrying 2, that's very good. And then you're, at least in most cases, hopefully getting a creature into your hand. That's decent for 4. I would certainly play this in limited. Gorger Hydra. And so this guy's interesting. He only costs 3. He's got trample, and he's a 1/1. And then whenever a player casts a spell, he gets a counter. So he can get out of control pretty fast. Now, he's not, say, a Tarmogoyf, because he kind of has to come into play as a 1/1, and you have to keep him alive to get him to the point where he becomes more economical for you. But if you can keep him alive, I mean, he'll take over the game, and you'll probably win just off this card alone. But he's going to be a lightning rod for removal. So is he going to be good? Yeah, I think so. Your opponent's going to have to deal with him. So I think he's a limited bomb. He might be just good enough to see some standard play if there's like that green ramp deck out there and they want some early creatures in the 3 spot that can be a threat and be annoying and kind of draw off some of the removal from their bigger creatures that will come later. He'll be a key player if that type of deck exists. He's also a really fine commander card. Obviously, any multiplayer situation he'll be hard to deal with, but of course there'll also be more players out there that can get rid of him. Mantle of Webs. So here's an aura. This is a lot better if you're playing some sort of Enchantment Matters theme. It only costs 2 though, so it's economical. It does help green deal with flyers, which it doesn't always have the ability to do. So in most cases, it'll probably be a sideboard card if you're dealing with a lot of flyers. Might of the Masses. So sometimes this is better than Giant Growth, sometimes it's worse than Giant Growth. Obviously early game it's not as good, but mid to late game it actually becomes better. So Giant Growth is a great card. This card will do work for you. It helps you get some damage across Unlimited, or it helps basically work as removal if your opponent attacks into it and they don't realize you have this. So really fine limited card. Nisa's Pilgrimage. And this is kind of your cultivate card for this set. Cost 3, you get 1 land that goes into the battlefield tapped and 1 into your hand. And if you have Spell Mastery, then you get 2 into your hand and 1 in the battlefield tapped. Again, it's going to be a good card for you in the right deck. If you have a limited deck with some expensive creatures, it's going to be great for you, and you'll be more than happy to use it. Nisa's Revelation. And the more I look at this card, the more actually powerful it seems to me. It costs 7, which is a lot. So I'm feeling at this point its home would be mostly limited unless, again, there's that green ramp deck out there. But Scry 5 is a very, very powerful effect. And then you shouldn't really whiff on a creature card in green when you're scrying 5. I'm sure it will happen at some point to somebody, but then you get to draw cards, extra cards as well. This is a pretty good card. I really like to try this out and see how it works. I think this is going to be a limited bomb, actually, and really help you draw into your threats and also stack your deck a little bit. This is kind of awesome. Again, if that ramp deck exists in Standard, this could definitely be a part of it as well. Nisa. So let's talk about Nisa a little bit. I do actually like her a lot. I think the reviews on her have been mixed because of the fact that she's a little more difficult to flip. But here's what I do like about her. She comes in as a 2/2, and she lets you search up a forest and put it in your hand. I like that effect. I just like the fact that she's a little bit of mini card advantage when she comes into play. And paying 3 for a 2/2 isn't great, but I'll be more than happy to do it with that effect. And then once you play a card, basically if it's your 7th land or more, then she flips. Now, that means she doesn't flip under normal circumstances till later in the game. But as you can see, there's a lot of ways to cheat some extra land into play. We've seen a few cards now that just help you search up forests or even put lands directly into play. So that could help with her clock a little bit. Now, once she's flipped, I think she's a really fine planeswalker. Her loyalty's a little low, but her +1 ability is amazing. It's just basically strict card advantage. Her -2 allows her to defend herself, which is very important for a planeswalker. And finally, her -7, it's a good ultimate. Again, I like that design, that it doesn't make you feel like the game's over and you have to scoop necessarily, but it's pretty powerful and it's going to be hard to lose once you ultimate her. So yeah, I think she's pretty good. I might go as far as to say she might be my favorite out of the 5. I like Gideon quite a bit too. I don't think Liliana's bad. The other 2 are a little more suspect. I feel like Jace's front side is very good. I just don't really want to flip him. So overall, I think she's going to be a decent planeswalker for you. Orchard Spirits. This is a decent limited card, and if you played with this in the past, you know that it can get across for a good amount of damage sometimes. It can only be blocked with creatures with flying or reach, so it has this sort of weird evasion that can allow it to get across for a good amount of damage, and your opponent almost has to deal with it. It's actually a very good limited card. Outland Colossus. So a little annoying maybe that he doesn't have any sort of evasion, but shoot, what else do you want? A 6/6 for 5 with a Renown 6, and he can't be multi-blocked. this guy's pretty awesome. Now, there's some ways to grant him trample. I think there's one coming up that will make him even better, but at the same time, you'll play this in limited. You'll be very happy. There'll be times that he'll just get chump blocked and you won't be able to get across with him, but then there's going to be times where he's just going to perhaps win you the game. Farika's a disciple, so she's a 2/3 with Death Touch and Renown for 4. Yeah, that's awesome. You'll certainly play this card in limited. Going to do some fantastic work for you. I mean, most creatures with Death Touch are good, but this one, even potentially being a 3/5, is pretty strong. You usually don't see that in green. Usually they have the smaller Death Touch creatures, but whenever you start getting Death Touch creatures that have 3 power, it starts to get a little crazy. Reclaim, and Reclaim's a good card. It costs 1 green, it's an instant, and you get to take a card from a graveyard, put it on top of your library. Again, there's a lot of self-mill strategies, so that's going to make this card even better and limited. This is a fine limited card. It's even good enough to see standard in the right deck from time to time. Rock Maulers. This is a great limited card. So these guys are like 4/4 for 5 with Trample and Renown 2. Just the fact they have Trample, it just makes it that much easier to hit their Renown and make them 6/6 Trample. That's kind of awesome. And they're at the common slot, so you're going to see a lot of these floating around, and you're going to have to deal with them some way, somehow. So I really like this card. At worst, your opponent's probably blocking with 2 creatures to get rid of this thing. You're getting card advantage out of it. At best, it's just getting in there for damage. So really fine card. Sky Snare Spider. So speaking of fine limited cards, here's another one. It costs 6, but you're getting a 6/6 Vigilance Reach. That's pretty awesome. I really like this card. It's borderline standard playable in certain decks, so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, especially if there's a ramp deck out there, but definitely a great limited card. Somberwald Alpha, and there's a lot of value in this card. So it only costs 4. You get a 3/2. Whenever creatures you control become blocked, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And on top of that, you can pay 2, as long as you have a green and a colorless, as much as you want, to give one of your creatures trample. So we've seen a lot of big creatures that don't have evasion and green. So this card is going to be a great complement to almost any green limited deck out there. I love the fact that this is uncommon. It probably would have been pushed a little bit at common, but there's going to be enough of these around that you should be able to draft one if you have a green deck. And it's going to do some work for you. I really like this. Sylvan Messenger. So she's a reprint, but she has definitely been a powerful card in the past in any sort of elf strategy. So in limited, you want to make sure you have enough elves for her to be economical, because if you don't want to miss with her, because she costs 4 for a 2/2. And she does have trample. There's ways to pump her and stuff. She becomes better, but you don't necessarily want to play her if you don't think you're going to be able to hit into some elves, at least a percentage of the time. But if you have a lot of elves, she'll be fine in limited, and she's going to be a card that if there is that standard elf deck out there, she'll be a big part of it. Really good card. Great Aura. So I think this is mostly a commander card. It's just very, very expensive. 3 on color and then 6, but it's basically a board sweep. It helps you just kind of reset the game and stabilize if you're behind. So if you find yourself in that commander game where you're just being outclassed by numerous opponents, this lets you kind of put everything back to start again. If you're playing a lot of lands and maybe less artifacts, creating mana and stuff like that, you get a little bit of an advantage when you play this card. But for the most part, it's just a reset button or a panic button for Commander. Timberpack Wolf. So this is the Draft Around Me card for green, and this is actually a reprint, and this is a pretty powerful card. Back last time was printed. If you can draft a few of these, or you happen to get lucky and get a few in your sealed pool, yeah, this is going to be great. This will do work for you. You'll certainly play this in sealed. Titanic Growth, another good card for limited. This is kind of the expensive giant growth, but it still does a lot of great work. It's an awesome combat trick, or it helps you get some damage across, hopefully for lethal. Undercity Trolls. So I like this. This is kind of a green regenerating troll with Renown, so they're kind of using that design space with Renown. This is going to do great work for you. I mean, 3 to regenerate isn't the best, but I think in this day and age, it's probably the best you're going to get. But for a 2/2, I mean, it's Grizzly Bear with tons of upside. You get the Renown, you get the ability to regenerate. Fantastic card. It can block big creatures all day long, or it can help you get in there for some damage, hopefully. Valor Wardens, and 1/3 for 3 isn't super exciting, but it does have Renown too, but most importantly, whenever a creature becomes Renowned, you get to draw a card. So this is going to be great in Limited if you have a lot of Renowned cards. It's going to give you a little card advantage. I don't know if there's necessarily a standard deck out there that's going to really focus on Renowned. I don't really see it, and if it's there, it's probably more of a white weenie deck, and I don't know if this card really fits into it. But for the most part, you never know, I guess, as new sets go. This will be a good limited card, though, for you. Password Gorger. So this is kind of the big dumb worm for the set. Some limited decks will play this and it will be fine. It won't always make your cut just because it doesn't have evasion. But with cards like the one we just saw a few moments ago that could grant this trample, it becomes a lot better. Vine Snare. So here's a weaker version of Fog. I don't know what else to say about this. Fog isn't that great to play to begin with, unless you're trying a turbo Fog strategy and you're going to use a lot of them. Yeah, I would steer clear of this one. This just feels like a trap to me. Wild Instinct. So this is some decent removal for green in Limited. Costs 4, which is kind of pricey, but better than some of the black removal. It costs 5. It's a little conditional, obviously, but yeah, you're going to play this. You're going to be more than happy to play it. It's at the common levels. You'll see a lot of these. You'll be able to draft these, hopefully, if you're in green. But yeah, this is strong green removal, basically. Woodland Bella. So 6/5 for 6, and you get to put another creature into play that's converted to mana cost 3 or less. So that's a lot of power and toughness on the board for 6, and potentially another ability from that other creature. Awesome card in Limited. Obviously, it's mythic. You won't see it a lot, but really fantastic if you happen to get this. As far as Standard goes, if that ramp deck exists, this could be a part of it, especially if it's searching up other key cards. There's a lot of power behind this, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. Eva's Force Mage. So this is okay in Limited. It gives you a one-time effect. Sometimes that's good. It just depends on your deck. This won't always make your cut, but if you need a 22nd, 23rd playable, it's not a horrible card by any means. And our last card of the day is Zendikar Royal, and I like this. It's basically landfall, and I'm sure it's kind of giving us a glimpse into battle for Zendikar, but costs 5. That's a little pricey, but then at that point, whenever a land comes into play under your control, you get to put a 2/2 green elemental into play. 5's expensive. You hate to take a turn off, but again, it's green, so there's ways to accelerate your mana a little bit. But if you can get this card out and then you play some of the cards that let you either search up lands or put lands directly into play, this gets even that much better. It stacks if you have multiple copies of them. It's actually a really good limited card. As much as that casting cost kind of pains me, I really think that I would play this in probably most of my green decks. You do start getting advantage off of it, especially in the late game when you're drawing lands, which normally would have been dead draws. Now you're getting 2/2 creatures out of them. Really like this card in Limited. I could definitely see it played in Commander as well around some land strategies. And who knows what the future holds with Zendikar. This could be a powerful card or a key element to a future standard deck based around landfall. So, having said that, those are all the green cards for the day. Tomorrow we will wrap this up with the rest of the cards in the set. So again, I just want to thank everybody for watching and for subscribing. Really appreciate it. And hey, as always, have a great day. Hey, thanks as always for watching. If you're still looking for quality Magic the Gathering videos, click on one of these annotations. And if you hadn't had a chance yet to subscribe, smash that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the breaking MTG news, spoilers, set reviews, crazy product openings, or gameplay videos on Heroes and Legends MTG. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.